Hey everybody. So, how do you stay warm and grit down in the house? Well, you can surround yourself with bull terriers. Hello bear. One of the things I recently got, because I realised I needed it, is one of these, Mr. Buddy. I'm going to link Prepper Bob's video where he sets this up and uses it, because it doesn't need to be repeated and it's a good video, so check his video out. Link should be coming in about now. What I've done with this is I've actually got on order, it's arriving soon, the a hose pipe attachment, so I can use a 20 litre. Mr. Buddy with the 1 litre screw-in propane on both sides. If you got it on full blast, it's only going to last a couple of hours, so it's going to be very expensive to use. So this is a short-term freezing cold idea. And for longer term, using it for 10-15 minutes before the fire kicks in would be good as well. Now, what else am I going to do? So I shut the water off to the mains, and I'm going to probably open the water and store it inside the house and empty the pipes. When pipes freeze, they tend to break, and then later on they will actually leak. So again, if the power's gone off and never coming back, it's kind of an irrelevancy, but at the same time you don't want your primary home or your bug-out location to actually be compromised by flooding, so it's a good idea to be able to shut it off. And as I said, I need to get a special pipe wrench to actually access the shut-off valve and turn it. My neighbour has one. I'd probably use my neighbour's, but if I was staying in this home, I would have one for myself. Okay, so cold. Things get affected by the cold, and in no particular order. Guns. For various reasons which are scientific, I'm not going into, and we all hate science in prepping, right? At a 300 yards to the target, your zero will be off by 45 inches, depending on how you've zeroed it, with extreme cold compared to normal temperatures. That's atmospheric physics and surface stuff. So yeah, that's an interesting thing. Toilet paper. Toilet paper needs to be kept for extreme cold and when you're sick. The rest of the time you want to use reusable rags, and I'm going to do a video on toilets and show all this stuff at some point. In the freezing cold and most other times you might be wanting to poop into a 5-gallon bucket and use a warm seat. Most people either have no seat or they plan to use their seat from upstairs or downstairs toilet. Actually what I have is noodles, old noodles from swimming, the thin noodles, and you just cut them and literally put them on and make a toilet seat. Because of the plastic it's warm, and trust me, warm toilet seats are a good thing. I would also separate the urine, and I would keep it in a cold room of the house, so it would actually freeze and be in that not a warm temperature. The urine I would dump outside in some safe place once a day probably, but I would keep it separate, and I keep the poop until it was actually warm enough for me to bury it or compost it. As I've said before, I'm going to grow a beard, and I'm going to grow my hair. Do you like the haircut? Terrible, eh? My golden locks chopped. And I'll cut them in the spring. Up here it's cold, and there's no point if you can grow long hair and grow facial hair, why not? I'm going to use wet wipes for hygiene. I may boil water once a week for a sponge bath. When I was a kid, I had a bath on a Thursday. That was it. I didn't get a bath any other day of the week, Thursday, and I was dirty Thursday. Didn't kill me. Trying to keep to normal standards of hygiene is labour and energy intensive and grit down, and you want to let it go straight away. Don't want to try and maintain normality if you can't, if it's too much effort. Cleaning clothes, right? Now you can rinse them out using tiny amounts of water and tiny amounts of detergent, and you can hang them out pretty much every day during the winter and beat them with a stick to get the ice off them, and then let them drip dry inside the house in a warm area. And again, you're smart if you accept the fact that your clothing might be worn for a week or more before you wash it. Your inner layers, your outer layers, you may not even wash until the spring. You're going to stink a bit. Grunge is fine, won't kill you. The hair. Hair does not need to be washed. There's arguments about this, but if you actually leave it for a week or so, the oils that build up actually accumulate and it goes away. So basically I wouldn't plan to wash my hair indoors in winter. When I can swim outdoors and shower outdoors in the spring and summer and fall I will. But it takes a lot of energy to warm water, and I need that for food. It's still sticking up, eh? So the hair care will be a highly personal choice. if you're going to wash your hair once a week, I would say, and I wouldn't do it too often. As I say, I plan not to wash my hair. Now what about food storage? A lot of us have food storage in basements. If we lose temperature for the house, that food's going to freeze. Is all your food downstairs or in the attic or in the garage, is it able to cope with sustained freezing temperatures? That's something you need to think about before you face it. Now remember as well, before you eat the food you want to bring it into the warmer area of the house to warm up as much as possible, because it takes more energy to actually heat frozen food than warm food. Wood storage. With wood storage you want to keep some of it in the house. I'm going to keep my plan here to keep all of it in the house, but you want to keep some of it in the house. You want to again be lighting a fire from wood that's not frozen solid. It's going to take the fire a lot quicker that way. Again, like I say here, urban and semi-urban areas, if you can, put all the wood in the house and use it for barrier defence, and also to stop people stealing it, because they will. We talked about clothing before, and like I say, dress in layers, and you'll be doing that in the house as well as outside the house. Now how do you sleep indoors? Now what would I do here? I would have this for a short-term emergency, so I probably might sleep upstairs with this on. I'd have the wood fire going, you've seen those videos, and I would have my rocket stove to cook with, and also I also have propane burners to cook with as well if I need to for short term. But you know, the lights have gone out, it's the end of the world, the aliens have arrived, North Korea's invaded Detroit, whatever it is. I would bring a mattress down from upstairs and put it here. I would put a tent on top of the mattress, and I would put plastic up in front of the fire, not too close, and I would put reflective survival blankets on the walls, not covering the wall, but putting some up and some on the ceiling. So I'm trying to make a super shelter inside the house. Now for the windows, and we collect these, packaging, plastic. Air is a great insulator, one of the best insulators you have. So you can take these up to the windows and still have some light. These are just ones I haven't put outside yet. But I have a box full of these, and I'd use these to prepare the windows to reduce the amount of heat leaving the hot area to go outside. That's a good idea, and it still allows some sunlight. The other thing I would do if I had solar system array, which I don't, and I could power the house with a generator, which I don't, if I wanted to have normal power in grid down, one of the things I would do, and I do this anyway, is I use normal old-fashioned light bulbs. Not like this, because this is not a normal light bulb. But these LEDs are great, fuel efficient, very cold, whereas the old-fashioned light bulbs give off a lot of heat. Now in Canada, it's actually more fuel efficient to have the light bulbs pumping out heat in the winter months than it is to have LEDs not using as much electricity. So that's actually a cost saving tip, and I would do that, and that's what I do. Switch them out in the spring for the fuel efficient ones. Everybody will tell you to have wool blankets. It's a good idea. They itch like crazy, so I wouldn't use these as an inner layer. I've got 4 or 5 of these in various places lying around. This is one of the cheaper ones. It's 55% wool and 45% synthetic. Again, I don't believe in pure wool because of the difficulty in washing. There's arguments for that. Certainly pure wool is a better efficient thing. What else? Okay. So sleeping bags. I'm going to set up my sleeping bag system at some point. Remember that the rating of a sleeping bag is 10 Fahrenheit lower than the actual temperature rating. I find this consistent. So if you've got a temperature sleeping bag that's got down to minus 20 Fahrenheit, expect it about minus 10 Fahrenheit it to be failing for you. Hey bear. So the better sleeping bag you can get, the better off you'll be. Have it in a bag that's silk or artificial fabric, that will help as well. So that's the inner layer, then the sleeping bag, then maybe an outer bivy bag. But remember, bivy bags tend to cause you to sweat, and remember, sweat will kill you. You don't want to sweat. Now, One of the main issues to keep warm in the winter would be to actually have a big meal before you go to bed at night. That will actually help you. Use lots of wool blankets, use a neck scarf in bed, you can have a toucan in bed, maybe double socks as well in bed. So try and keep warm. One of the good things people do in camping is they'll have a urine bowl so they don't have to go out of the tent to pee when it's cold, or maybe they don't want to go out and pee because they're frightened of the bears. But that's also something you can transpose and use and grid down inside the house as well. So have one area of the house that's warm or warmer than the rest of the areas of the house. Don't try and heat the whole house. Don't try and have functional rooms like you normally would. Cook, sleep, poo, eat in the one room. If you have, pooing would be in a separate room that's cold, but you can pee in the warm room and then move it out later on. Think about trapping the air in the hot room and not wasting it by opening doors all the time. If you have dogs and pets, they'll have to be more disciplined because they can't be going in and out, in and out, in and out like they normally would. Heat will leave. So the most important part of this I'm going to do next because it's the most important part. Au revoir.